everybody, and indeed, welcome to another edition of Who's Your Hometown Heroes. I'm your host and navigator, Tony Val, and my guest today is the founder of Catholic Business Exchange. I now welcome to the show Jim Liston. Hello, Jim.
Tony, thank you for having me as a guest.
So, Jim, as I said just a moment ago, before we had technical difficulties, you're a man of many hats, and CBE is just kind of part of what you do. CBE stands for Catholic Business Exchange. Where I wanted to start today is what inspired you to start Catholic Business Exchange?
Well, I've been in business for myself for an awful long time. I've been self-employed for 30 years, and so I learned early on the importance of networking, about going to events and what have you. And one of the things I noticed as we networked is everyone was kind of on the same page, which you'd meet people, but they'd kind of have a fistful of business cards in the left hand as they shook with the right hand. And it was really like, what can you do for me right now scenario. And that's good. People need to earn money and to buy products and whatever, but I just felt there was a better way to do it long term to develop trust quicker than just a business transaction. So being a cradle Catholic, being devoted to my faith and whatever, I thought it may not be a bad idea to gather people of like mind, not only Catholics, but believers together in one room, but maybe do it in a different approach rather than just business cards in the left hand, rather, hi, how are you, where do you go to church, what's important to you. And so our approach, Tony, is totally different than your typical networking event.
Yeah, and I can certainly attest to that. To me, it is all about forming relationships, which I think you've taught us over time. That's what it's all about. That's what networking is all about anyway. I want to talk, so you brought a graphic which we will superimpose, the three-legged stool, and I think that speaks to this idea of it's a community. So can you just describe how do the three legs of the stool work?
Simple idea, because I'm a simple guy.
Yeah.
The three legs represent the three components of what I believe is the mission of Catholic Business Exchange. And if you see the graphic, you'll notice that the largest leg, the closest to us, is faith. And then it's friendship, and then it's business, in that order. Mm-hmm. And let me just share with you a little bit about that.
Sure.
Faith. That's a real good common denominator for people. People want to do business with people that they can trust first. The products come secondary. And so we open our meetings with a Catholic Mass that really sets the tone for the entire program. And then it's important for friendship, because one of the most valuable byproducts of doing this for 14 years now has been some of my very, very best friends in the world now have been brought into my life from Catholic Business Exchange. So I never underestimate the importance of developing good friends. Somebody can't have too many good friends, right?
Sure.
And then the third component is business. We want business to be conducted. We want our people to come to the meetings and be able to find good people that they trust to go out and have a cup of coffee with and see where it goes. But again, it's secondary to everything else. It's faith, friendship, and business in that order. And I can tell you that a lot of people are doing business with one another, but they're doing business in a different way than your traditional way of networking.
Yes. Something I've heard you said a lot of times over the years, and I'll preface this by saying one of the great things you do, Jim, is, especially for new members, you bring us in and kind of coach us a little bit. You sort of mentor us a little bit to make entry into the group, I think, as painless and fruitful as possible. And one of the things I've heard you say several times is, this is an amateur hour. And I think that speaks to, your goal of we're not coming to the group with just one goal in mind and just thinking of what's in it for me. And I think that's one of the great powers of Catholic Business Exchange is it's that's not really what ties us together. It's our faith that ties us together.
Yeah, and on that note, Tony, if I may add, one of the things that people, if they want to give us a try sometime, we'd love to have them come to our meetings. They're open both to Catholic and non-Catholic.
Sure.
But they'll notice right away that their name badge won't say what they do 8 to 5 o'clock. They'll have their name and they'll have their church, whether it's Catholic or Protestant or Jewish or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It'll have that. So Jim Liston, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yes.
And that's a great mild icebreaker, because you're not just going and saying, oh, that person is a realtor or a CPA or an attorney, and if your best friend is in that trade, it moots the opportunity to learn about that person, to get to know them before you prejudge. And so that's a simple but really important aspect of Catholic Business Exchange, is that you meet people on a faith basis first, and then you see if there's any common denominators from besides faith, and then if business emerges thereafter, that's the icing on the cake.
Yeah. It's funny. First of all, Catholic Business Exchange is the first Catholic networking group I've ever been a part of, and I can say that although I didn't necessarily anticipate this, but it was a huge. There was incredible comfort right away. I think there's something about being raised Catholic. We have something in common that we get instantly. We get it, and I think that's a great kind of position of strength to start forming relationships. It's very, very comfortable, but it's also interesting just seeing what parish someone is from. It's each parish kind of has their own story, their own their own strengths and special events and those sorts of things. I was the last members meeting, I was sitting across the table from someone from St. Monica's, and I said, oh, let me tell you a story about Father Paul. When Father Paul was the pastor at St. Monica's, my wife and I were members. We used to live on the west side, and both sets of our parents would, of course, love to come visit us, but they always wanted to go see Father Paul preach. He has he had memorized all the readings, and for some reason that was the greatest thing ever to them. So each parish has their story, and I think that's really neat. How involved are you in promoting all the different events that the parishes have kind of through CBE? Yeah, so again, if one of your viewers were to come to our meeting, and I'd like to put the website, if I may, on there. It's CatholicBusinessExchange.org. Absolutely. And again, it is open both to Catholic and non-Catholic. But one of the things you'll find, and one of the things we try to make it comfortable, even if you're there for the very first time, and I know that can be intimidating, but we do I think a great job of making that person for the first time feel very welcomed and comforted. For example, right after the Mass is over, I call up all of the first-time people there, and they come to the front, just really like a 30-second infomercial. They tell us their name, they tell us where they worship, they tell us how they found out about CBE, and then they tell us what they do. But we try to teach them, hey, this is an elevator pitch. It's 30 seconds. You can learn a lot in 30 seconds from someone. And the value, Tony, of getting those people up there before we start our regular program is everybody now knows who the bright, shiny face in the crowd is. They're not just wondering, gee, I wonder who he or she is. Yes. So, again, that is, and I keep getting great responses from first-timers that say, that was a great icebreaker for me. I felt like everybody was welcoming me. They knew who I was. I got a chance to tell them who I was, and that's very important. Absolutely. Yeah, so you've put a lot of thought into the details. And I must say, you, as a member, just sort of observing how you run the group, you have the best follow-through I've ever seen, I think, which is kind of a lesson in and of itself. I'm involved in several membership groups. You're the only one running a group that calls me up and says, "Hey, Tony, I haven't seen you in a while." You know, which is I need to hear things like that.
I have fun with it, and I try not to browbeat, but I do feel that it's important. It's consistency.
Yes.
People want to know where Tony is. People want to know how come Jim wasn't at the meeting and whatever. And so we do strive to stay in touch with our membership as best we can. You know, and one of the other things you mentioned about you meeting somebody from a different parish, I always tell people, I promise you will meet people from all over the city that you don't share faith with on Sunday in the pew. You may be at St. Thomas Aquinas, you may be at St. Alphonsus in Zionsville, but it's wonderful to make that combination where you're saying you never would have met that person if you hadn't been at Catholic Business Exchange. And then you now have a reservoir of new friends, potential friends that you can embrace, go out and have a cup of coffee, see if there's some common denominators. So
absolutely,
we really strive on letting people meet people they normally wouldn't have the chance to meet on Sunday morning.
I want to take just a moment to remind everyone, my guest is Jim Liston. He is the founder of Catholic Business Exchange. The website is catholicbusinessexchange.org. Jim, were you, looking at your educational background, were you raised in Illinois?
I was. I'm a native of northern Illinois. I grew up in a small farming community of 2,000 people, 100 miles west of Chicago. So all my schooling was in Illinois. I have lived now in Indianapolis for 31 years.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
But this is my home, and I love it here. It's been a wonderful home for myself and my family. And but yeah, my roots are in the Midwest.
Where did you go to Catholic school growing up?
I went to Catholic school, good old St. Anne's, from first grade to eighth grade, and then unfortunately there was no opportunities for Catholic high school locally. But again, born Catholic, raised Catholic, and it's just been a good base for me. It works for me.
So I grew up in Lisle, Illinois. So not quite as far west as you did,
right.
Not quite as rural.
Right.
And we had Catholic high schools, so I went to Bennett Academy there in Lisle. Have you ever been to the Catholic Corners?
I sure have, yeah. I know right where you're at. I taught school in Joliet and coached football, so I know exactly where you lived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very close to where I spent 4 good years of my life. But
it's a small world.
Yeah, and you know, you bring that up of interest is that we're not the Catholic police,
right?
Okay, if someone is just really has maybe lost their way per se, I always say, look, I promise you this: you will be comforted, you'll be welcomed. We're not trying to turn you into a better Catholic or whatever, but if you surround yourself with people that are believers, it's wonderful what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so again, we try not to judge, and we don't judge, and that's one of the other elements of Catholic Business Exchange that helps us continue to do good work.
I'm curious to find out, is there, now that you've been running CBE, it's coming up on 15 years, correct?
It is, and then actually next year, in August of 19, we'll be celebrating. We're going to have a big celebration of the finish of our 15th year. We started in September of 2004. Our meetings are always held at the same place. Our home has been the Northside Knights of Columbus at 71st and Keystone. So we're really excited about next August and celebrating 15 years.
Yeah, I read somewhere that that very first meeting had, 40 to 60 people in attendance?
We had 40 or 39. You think you're going to remember all this stuff, Tony, but yeah. I know it wasn't our average group. Our average group now runs between 65 to 95, depending on the speaker and whatever.
Yeah. Only you, Jim, could start out, though, with 40 people. I mean, that's a pretty good start.
Well, we've been blessed with a lot of help from the different parishes. And in terms of our advertising, we do primarily advertise to Catholic audiences through the Catholic parish bulletins, through the Catholic Criterion weekly newspaper, through the IBJ. But we've been blessed to have a lot of notices on Sundays when people take their bulletin home and read about us. That's a good way. But we've got about 1,000 people on our email list also, and that's another thing that the viewers can do is they can go out to the website and sign up for our weekly emails. And it's permission-based, so we can't add anybody. So we like that if they join up, it's because they want to join in.
Got it. Very good. Getting back to that faith leg of the stool, your career is in the financial world, correct? You're with West Point Financial. I'm curious to hear, how has faith served your career? How is that intertwined? It's a big question.
It is a big question, and I'm proud to be a part of West Point Financial Group, which is the Mass Mutual office here in the city, where I dedicate my time and interest with insurance products and investments. But it does help me, Tony. My faith helps me because it helps me when I sit down with a individual or a couple or a business owner. I'm always striving to do what's best for them. And I'm always asking lots of questions. What are you trying to do? And giving them options, not just hopefully my opinion or my bias. And so it's reminded me, to be a good servant, to be a good business person with strong ethics, and always allowing the client to make their own decisions, because they're smart enough to do that. They just may need a little tweak on the side, or maybe some information from me to make a better business decision.
Yeah, yes, servant leadership, and that's certainly what you do with the group. I mean, you're the engine that serves all of us members. So it sounds like you've kind of built just that's your life, helping others, Jim.
It's a big part of it. Again, I've been blessed to. I envisioned when I started it saying, I hope this works, but in my heart I knew it would work because it was different, and I always use a phrase, people buy differences. So I'm in a competitive marketplace. You can get insurance and investments from a lot of people, and you can, if you're a realtor, you can get a lot of people to help you buy or sell a home or whatever. But the difference maker to me is if somebody trusts you. And we work hard to coach our people that come to Catholic Business Exchange. They're already smart and very good business people to begin with, but just that reminder of how important it is to keep a balance in your life, and that it's not all about the final sale.
Yes.
Sales come, sales go.
Yeah.
But your integrity has to be there every day.
Absolutely. Along the lines of, you mentioned you kind of advise members on how to network. So am I remembering correctly that do you speak at or give a course at a college or?
I do. I'm
on networking?
I'm honored each semester to be invited to teach a class on I call it Networking 101, and these are the juniors and seniors at Butler University. The same advice I give to you, Tony, as a successful business person, I'm giving to the youngsters just starting out. And I said, look, networking is a lifelong skill that you need to develop, and there's ways you can do it right on campus. Okay, so some of the tips I give them is saying, nothing ever happens if you show up late for a meeting. Whether you're interviewing, whether you're looking for an internship, whether you're going to a networking event, always show up early, because you get to meet the organizers of the event, as an example. You can offer your assistance. So, when I go to a networking event, I always go early and I offer to be a host. I put myself in the role of a host. If I'm greeting people at the door, it just makes me feel more comfortable. And that's one of the tips I give to the young students. And likewise, it's important for them to make contact with people other than texting or emailing. Okay, yes. And I try to coach them, and I coach my members to how important it is to find out where somebody's hometown is. Yes. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit information, Tony, about if I know where you grew up. You mentioned Chicago. we can start a wonderful conversation just talking about where you grew up.
Yes.
Right? People don't do that. They immediately go to a business topic. That's amateur hour. You know,
yes.
You don't need to do that.
What do you do?
You
What do you
don't
do,
need,
Jim?
and everybody does that, and everybody gags at the response on it. And so there's a better way to do it. Finding out where a hometown is, coaching or telling young people, look, when you go for an interview, when someone gives you the opportunity to meet them for an internship or whatever, send them a handwritten thank you note. I'm huge, as you know, on follow-up thank you notes that day.
Yeah.
Okay, I call it the sunset rule. If you meet with somebody today, that thank you with a stamp should be in the mailbox by sunset, because the significance is if they get it possibly, with good luck from the Postal Service, the next day or the following day, it's immediate. It's much more valuable and meaningful for somebody to get that thank you note within 48 hours than it is trickling in a week later.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a simple, common sense suggestion I have, but as I say, common sense isn't sometimes real common.
Yeah. I have a little twist on that, and on that technique, I've seen you share that, and it's been a great reminder for me. Thank you notes. So here's my little twist. I wonder if you've ever tried this.
Okay.
I have this theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but when I can figure it out, if I've had a meeting with a business associate of some type, prospect, who knows, but whoever it is, if I can send the thank you note to their home instead of their business, my theory is there's a little extra something special when the person's family gets to see, hey, mom or dad is important enough that this person sent a note to their home. So that's my little twist.
Well, I'm glad. I'm going to steal that
Are
twist
you?
because I have not purposely done that, but that's brilliant. It really is, because you're right. Not only are you getting it at the office, that's meaningful to the recipient, but if their son or daughter who's in 7th or 8th grade see that dad got a handwritten note, their curiosity is right there, and they may learn from it. Because dad's probably saying, this is very meaningful. This person went above and beyond, and I need to do more of that. So he's coaching his children. That's brilliant, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Here's another one that is. This was not my idea. This was done to me, and I've tried to do it ever since. My dad passed away in 2016, and. Robbie Slaughter. Hello, Robbie. Do you know Robbie Slaughter?
I sure do.
Okay.
I sure do. Great guy.
Robbie sent me a note on the anniversary of my dad's passing. Now, that's something I'll never forget.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, tying in with that, we strive when we find out from members that they've had a loss or a significant sickness or whatever, we have a prayer request page for the members that they can post. Please pray for my special friend, or please pray for my sister who's going through an emergency appendectomy, whatever it is. And then it humanizes that member. They're not just another business person. They're a real human being, and it personalizes it. And that's a great example of what Robbie did for you. And it's unforgettable.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Unforgettable. Let's not forget, my guest today is Jim Liston. He's the founder of Catholic Business Exchange. The website is catholicbusinessexchange.org. He is also with West Point Financial Group. So if you have any blind spot in kind of your financial life, Jim is definitely a great guy to get to know on that front as well. Jim, how do you something I've enjoyed witnessing at CBE meetings? You greet everyone that comes through, and what I've noticed over time is you never forget a name, you never forget a face. You're pronouncing all the names correctly. Are there any techniques you're using just memory-wise, or is it sheer brute force hard work? How do you pull that off?
Yeah, I wish I could credit myself for remembering every name and every this and that. I strive to know that because I know how important it is. A name is one of the most important things to a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's their name. It sounds common. It sounds common as a shoe, but you know what? Again, a lot of people take it for granted, and by addressing somebody by their name versus "Hey, how are you?" means the world.
Yeah.
And so I work really hard at trying to remember. Some people are blessed that they can do a better job of remembering names and whatever, but it takes some time, and I encourage everybody out there to do the same because, again, meaningful. Knowing somebody's hometown, knowing their name is precious.
Yeah.
It really is, and few people do it. And again, people buy differences. So if you're really out to work and do a better job and becoming more successful, give it a try. It's just like a habit. A bad habit is hard to break. A good habit is hard to start.
Yes.
But work at it. Just work and concentrate and try and catch yourself. I guarantee your viewers that if they do that, remarkable things happen. The whole dynamic of that conversation changes. If you ask them how their family is doing, if you ask them what their hobbies are, what makes them tick, these are great ways to break ice and to become a difference maker. And people want to know then more about you, right?
Yes.
It's a two-way street. And some people literally will say, hey, you've asked me 4 or 5 questions, let me ask you a few. And now they're actively engaged in listening, right?
Yes.
We all can do better at listening. And so that's one of the things that I strive to do is to listen as best I can.
Yeah. It just occurs to me, ironically, as we sit here, I suppose one of my tips would be, hey, start a podcast and invite people on the show. I really have created so many relationships.
This is my first opportunity to be on a podcast, and I may take you up on it. I may start my own podcast.
I can show you how to. Did you used to do something with Catholic Business Radio, or do you still?
Catholic Radio, yeah.
Catholic
I used to
Radio.
be Faith in Action and whatever as one of the co-hosts and whatever, but yeah, they've got great people doing that now.
Oh, I could teach you how to do this.
Good.
No problem. I really could.
I'm a lifelong learner, Tony.
Yeah. Before I forget, this is really random. So you said you were in Joliet for a while. Did you know Henry Wind?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I did not. No.
He was. Now, were you in phys ed or sports?
I was. I was in a suburb of Joliet called Shorewood, Illinois, and I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade boys PE and health, and then I coached high school football at Joliet West.
Well, so Henry Wind was my PE teacher in grade school in Lisle. All right. But he lived in Joliet.
Oh, all right.
So I didn't know if
cross
you ever.
paths.
Yeah. He's still there, by the way.
Okay.
That's been a lot of years ago.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
When's the last time you sent him a note thanking him for the influence? You wouldn't have brought him up today if he wasn't important in your life.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the other thing I tell the young people at Butler is saying, there were people that inspired you to go to college, to pick Butler University and stuff. When's the last time your favorite teacher in grade school or high school have heard from you? They would hopefully be sitting down when they got their handwritten thank you note from you, but I guarantee you when you go home for the holidays and you run into them, they'll bring it up.
Yeah.
People invariably, Tony, will bring it up. If I send them a thank you note, the next time I see them, they're telling me thank you. And birthday calls. I don't think we talked about that.
Yes, I have a
cannot
note here.
tell you the number of times that I'm a worst singer in the world, but I sing happy birthday.
Do you?
Absolutely. As terrible as I am, I sing it just because I do.
Yeah.
And people will tell me when they see me saying, you know what, this is my birthday and haven't even heard from my children yet. And as you get older, you get fewer and fewer birthday parties and birthday calls. And so I know how meaningful it is for somebody because just like their first name, a birthday is very, very special to people. So that's why I do it.
Yeah. Yes, I have a note right here and I remember you saying it. Call people on your birthday. It's so easy today through Facebook. It'll tell you when it's someone's birthday, and what everyone does, and I have been guilty of this. You say happy birthday right through Facebook, just like everyone else does. But if you call them, you set yourself apart.
You know,
show
Tony,
them you care.
there's a very famous study that was done by about Harvard graduates, and they interviewed people after 20 years out of Harvard, and they asked them, and they compared those who wrote down their goals and those who didn't write down their goals, and they quantitated who were more successful financially, and it was so top-heavy toward the ones who had written down their goals. And so in my case, on the birthdays, I use Facebook, but in my day timer, if I had it here, I could show you in yellow throughout the year. I've got every Catholic Business Exchange member's birthday on my calendar. So today, there's one member. This birthday is today. She'll get a call later this morning from me.
That's neat.
Yeah, I don't, because I would forget if I didn't.
Sure.
So we all are creatures of habit, goods and bads.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and at some point, it's too much data. We do have to have a system.
We do.
Yeah. Well, so my last question to you, Jim, is how can someone get involved in Catholic Business Exchange and or join? What do you suggest?
I tell them, my pet phrase is come and kick the tire. Simply go to our website, catholicbusinessexchange.org. We are very, very regular. We've never missed we always meet on the third Friday of the month, and we always meet at the Northside Knights of Columbus. So if you can just put that into your calendar and look at the third Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., go to the website. There's an easy click and post your email and your name, and put yourself on the mailing list, and just come to one of the meetings. I promise you that you'll have an enjoyable time. You'll be welcomed. It may not be your cup of tea, but you'll be happy that you came to learn more about Catholic Business Exchange.
Yes, I think it's a tremendous group of people, just terrific people. And I think we've also laid the foundation for the argument, Jim, that if nothing else, someone is going to get an education in networking from you, almost through osmosis, just through observing you and through everything you do. There's so much more in the group, but
well, thank you, Tony.
That's so I'm excited to do my little part in spreading the word and to saying thank you for all you do, all you've done for me, all you've done for us members, and I'm looking forward to that party on the 15th anniversary.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.